Hilton brings you new ways to stay, with experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
Taking you behind the curtain. It's the Joan Hamburg Show. Talk Radio 77 WABC.
We've all been a little down, no matter who we are. Everyone's got some kind of issue. This pandemic is lasting so long. And then my daughter and I took ourselves to see Mrs. Doubtfire, the new musical comedy at the Sondheim Theater. And I have to tell you, we laughed. And we laughed. And we had such a good time. It was such a relief. And then my producer went to see it last minute. And she works all day from early in the morning, like everyone here. And, got out late, had to go home, and had such a good time. It made her so happy. It was just letting yourself sit there. And Rob McClure, who is the lead, one of the leads, and you've seen him in so many major shows, in Beetlejuice and Something Rotten, and more. You were so... I have Rob with me as a guest today, and Rob McClure, you were so good in this show. You're so good in all the shows, but it was unbelievable to watch you move like you did. And are you having fun?
Oh, my gosh. First of all, thank you so much. I'm so thrilled that it was able to be a tonic for you, as it is being found to be for many. But thanks, Joan. Yeah, I'm having the time of my life. It's been a long time coming. We were lucky enough to do 3 previews 19 months ago in March of 2020, and then COVID hit, and we had to put the show on a shelf for 19 months, and it's so refreshing to be back. And 19 months ago we set out to make a show about the lengths to which you'd go to be with those you love, and we're finding that message is resonating more now than ever in a way that people kind of couldn't imagine when we set out.
Right, because the character that Rob plays is a married guy, an actor, of course, like many actors, a struggling actor.
Yes,
and he lives out his acting fantasies by being a million things to his kids, who are perfectly enchanted by Dad. Your wife in the play is disenchanted. She's had enough. So she decides she needs a divorce. You have to leave. And I'm not going to tell the whole story, but you ended up in disguise as a woman applying for a nanny job so that you can be with your kids.
Yeah.
And I don't think, should we tell a little more than that? Or that's enough?
I think that was pretty darn good. Well done. Yeah, I mean, this is about a dad who will do anything to be with his kids. And yeah, the musical, focuses on, that he's not, he might be a good friend and buddy to his kids, but he's not necessarily the best husband material at the beginning of the play. And over the course of this sort of crazy charade, they all learn a whole lot about what it means to be a good parent and a good partner. And, when the film came out in 93 and now the musical, it was one of the few stories for children that didn't establish that the happy ending has to be the parents getting back together. Because up until then, that was sort of the only thing around, Parent Trap and things like that, where the kids conspired to get mom and dad to fall back in love. And Mrs. Doubtfire was kind of the first thing to come along and say, you know what, maybe you're all going to be better for the parents being divorced, and then rather than finding ways to make them stay together, maybe it's better to redefine family. And that's what I think the musical has taken and expanded really beautifully. Right.
And, the night I was there was a family across the aisle with 6 kids, including a 3-year-old. I thought that was pretty surprising.
Yeah,
but at intermission, I went up to them and I said, I'm just curious. Tell me, kids, what you think? And the kids had such a good time. You know, they loved all the pratfalls and all the sight gags.
Of course. Yeah.
I mean, and the truth is, that's what we love too. We were in the mood for that.
Yeah.
This is, to me, this is the right time. I'm talking to Rob McClure, who's starring he is Mrs. Doubtfire, among other things, in this play. So you've had an interesting career, a little bit different from a lot of actors, because you started in your high school where you had near you the Paper Mill Playhouse, one of our favorite theater sources, and that really changed your life.
For sure. I will often say that Paper Mill Playhouse changed my life, and they did. Their education director, a woman named Susan Spidell, created a program along with somebody named Mickey McNanny-Damian, a brilliant teacher and educator who we lost just a few years ago. But her and Susie Spidell created something called the Rising Star Awards, which is basically like the New Jersey High School Tony Awards. And they scooped me up my senior year of high school, and I won that award, which got me a scholarship to their summer teaching conservatory, which was sort of my first formal training in performance, and changed my life. And it was a production there of a play called I'm Not Rappaport with Judd Hirsch and Ben Vereen that I was lucky enough to be a part of, that then transferred to Broadway and gave me my Broadway debut in 2002.
That was unbelievable, because you weren't living the New York life as a starving actor, you know, working as a waiter.
No, I was a teaching artist directing, you know, the musical at my old high school. And and I was actually, you know, they cast me in the ensemble of Carousel. That was my first professional show in Paper Mill in 2000, and it changed my life. I got to share a dressing room with the late great Eddie Bracken, who taught me more about this industry than anybody I could possibly imagine.
And did you get an equity card with all that?
I did. Yes, I did. That was the beginning, and I cherished it. You know, I was actually working in the box office after Carousel. I didn't want to leave the building, so I got a job in their box office. And when I'm Not Rappaport came along, they asked me to understudy. And I said, well, you know, at the time it was non-union. I got my union card when I was in I'm Not Rappaport. And I said, well, the non-union understudy salary, I'm making more working in the box office. Can I keep my box office job? And I'll understudy from the box office. If you need me to go on, call my phone extension. I'll come back and go on. And they let me. So I was understudying from the box office. And then we got word that show was transferring to Broadway, and they let me out of the box office, thankfully. And there I was. Unbelievable.
And then you were in Avenue Q.
Yes, for years, both on Broadway and on tour. Changed my life. That was the first time I was able to collaborate with Kevin McCullum, the great producer, who then I got to work with in Something Rotten, and now Mrs. Doubtfire.
Right, and you did Chaplin. I mean, it's amazing, because, you know, a lot of people, I'm sure, said to you, why do you want to work at the high school and teach directing or teach the kids? Why don't you just plow into the New York theater scene? But you resisted, and it was the best thing that could have happened.
Absolutely. I wasn't ready. You know, I don't think I was good enough. I think I enjoyed it and I had fun, but I think the experience of directing the musical at my old high school for 4 years made me such a better actor, because it made me a better collaborator. I got a larger sense of what it takes to put on a show. You know, when the school gives you $1,000 to put on a musical with 35 kids, and you're trying to get performances out of these kids, it forces you to sort of question your own process in an ability to try and explain to them what it is you want to get out of them. And it made me better, you know, hanging upside down from the ceiling of my high school auditorium, trying to wire a moving light into an antiquated electrical grid from the 1930s.
Oh, my gosh.
You'll learn a lot, you know, and it makes you a better actor because you have a sense of the larger picture. So now when I work on Broadway and I can name, you know, what footlighting instrument we're using while Phil Rosenberg is doing our lights, you become a better collaborator.
Which is true. How did you guys deal with the pandemic? Like every actor, the pain of seeing, you know, your another opportunity, a big one on Broadway, is suddenly brought to its knees.
Yeah, I mean, we were all hit with a large dose of perspective, right? We were certainly not the only ones struggling, but it was all about scraping by. But theater people are scrappy. We sign up for an unpredictable life. But my gosh, couldn't have expected this. But we were lucky in that a lot of us turned to other forms of work. A lot of things, the invention of Zoom certainly helped us out. A lot of us could do sort of Zoom readings or Zoom teaching or things like that. But as grateful as I am for those innovations and for all of the art that was able to be created online and digitally and otherwise, it is not theater. It will never be theater, because as you experienced this week when you came to the show, there's something about the shared humanity of being in the room together. That exchange of live energy, which is the reason we all go and participate and work in the theater, is that electricity, that energy exchange.
Right.
And, laughter, a room full of laughter is quite literally healing. It really is an amazing thing, and we're feeling it now more than ever.
Right. And physically, though, Mrs. Doubtfire is not an easy show on you.
No.
I mean,
no.
It's, you have to be an acrobat to really.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, was this something you were always good at?
I was always, I always loved, sports, and I played baseball and basketball in high school. I don't know that I was particularly good at it, but my athleticism lent itself to playing pretend. I was always playful. I was always running around with my friends and playing Ghostbusters and Ninja Turtles and running around.
And imitating.
I was always a bit of a clown. The first performance I ever did in my life was impressions in my 4th grade talent show. So I've always been a mimic, but I never knew that 30 years later I'd be cashing in on those investments in that skill. But who could have predicted? Huh? And one of the people I used to mimic as a child was, of course, Robin Williams,
right? Because
he was the mimic of all mimics, So between having his influence and then getting to play Charlie Chaplin really prepared me for this role. Yeah, because when you study physical comedy and physical storytelling in the way that show forced me to, it changes your DNA as a performer and really prepared me for this sort of physical storytelling when you're inhabiting more than one self on the stage.
Right, and so different from when you're doing cabaret and things like that. I know you've been at Feinstein's, and you do this, which is very rewarding and much more intimate, but totally different experience.
Totally different. A totally different set of skills. Yeah, it takes a different muscle group, and Mrs. Doubtfire specifically, just getting the physical ability to maneuver that costume, to maneuver those prosthetics that I'm wearing on my face and the bodysuits. So to be able to I likened Chaplin to learning how to speak fluently a physical vocabulary, an unspoken vocabulary. And Mrs. Doubtfire certainly has her own set of physical behaviors and things that getting all of those pieces on is not only an obstacle, but then it starts to feel like an assist. It starts to feel like part of her being. So I love costumes because they tend to sort of be the last ingredient in finding out exactly how that person moves.
Right, and they certainly did a great job, and because that's a major deal from the hair and everything on.
Yeah, we partnered with this amazing prosthetic company, and we had to do a lot of trial and error because, and that's one of the things that makes the show really thrilling is that in the movie, when Robin Williams runs in the other room and comes back as Mrs. Doubtfire 18 seconds later, we all subconsciously know that they yelled cut and he went in a trailer for 5 hours.
Exactly.
In the show, if I've got 18 seconds, I've got 18 seconds, and the audience knows I've got 18 seconds. So the stakes feel very high. And the fact that this team and my team of dressers and the hair and makeup people have pulled this off in real time is a pretty extraordinary achievement. No,
it is. And the audience loves it. And And it does happen in those few seconds. So when you're immersed in a role like this, you don't start looking at other things, at TV or anything else. This is
I don't have any extra brain cells. I have the show, and I've got a 3-year-old at home, so my brain is.
And you don't live in Manhattan, right? You don't have to tell where you live, but you're commuting.
Yeah, well, we have a house in Philadelphia where we're usually based full time. We are up here at least until I get my feet underneath me for the
No, it's too
so that
hard.
I don't have to lose that. Yeah,
too hard
So
to commute.
We go home on the days off, but I actually really enjoy that commute when I'm not stretched so thin.
Right. No, now it's too hard, and you're married to an actress.
Yes, yeah, Maggie Lakis, who we met doing a production of Grease. We were Duty and Frenchie in Grease in 2005, and have been together ever since.
It's great. And do you have time to enjoy your baby, or?
Yeah, it's so funny. Daniel Hillard and Mrs. Doubtfire is sort of this crazy man-child, a bit of a Peter Pan, who won't grow up. And I found myself at rehearsal, playing with my stage kids and improvising all kinds of fun games, and some of them ended up in the show, some of them didn't, and then I would get home absolutely exhausted, and I would open the door, and then my real 3-year-old would go, "Dad, let's play pirates." And what am I going to say no to my real child, but yes to my fake children? So I found myself, pretending 21 hours out of the day.
Oh no! Did she ever see her daddy as Mrs. Doubtfire?
Not yet. Not yet.
It may be too much.
Once the COVID protocols lighten up at the theater, and I can bring her in and show her the mask and show her the hair, and she has the concept of the pretend, I would love to sort of show her the make-believe of it all. But until I can get her in there and so that she can see exactly what it is and how it works.
Right, or get her vaccinated. Confusing. She's too young right now.
She's too young right now, exactly right. Yeah.
So it's a hard thing. And what I'm fascinated by, too, is the line for all these people going to theater despite COVID and despite everything, even though the theaters, God bless them, are strict and doing a very good job on this.
Yes, they are. And, it's a fascinating thing. Our producer says this is an art of inconvenience. For the last 19 months, we've tried to find ways to bring art into your room, into your bedroom, into your living room, into your laptop, on your iPad, even your phone. But now we're asking you to get a babysitter. We're asking you to spend the money.
Right.
We're asking you to get tested.
Car.
We're asking you to get vaccinated. We're asking you to come in. We're asking you to wear a mask. So the people who are making the effort to show up, we know really want to be there. And so do we. And it's just proof as to how much people need it. That this isn't it is inconvenient, but we promise that for the people who make the effort, the reward is pretty monumental, and it's a mutual investment of us putting in the work and showing up and putting on these shows, and the people putting in the work to make themselves available to come see it, and we couldn't appreciate it more.
No, and you guys really went through, like so many actors. You had just started the new Mrs. Doubtfire.
That's
I think Three shows when Broadway shut down?
Yeah, I'll never forget it. I was on stage rehearsing with Jen Gambatese and Jerry Zaks, and our producer came in and sat everybody down and said, "Hey, leave everything right where it is and go home."
They must have been crying. It was a death in the family.
Yeah, and then we all go home for these 19 months. And what's astonishing is when we were finally let back in the theater, all of these Broadway theaters became these little time capsules of 5:30 on Thursday, March 12th, with, the notes I was receiving from Jerry that afternoon written, sitting on my desk next to, a couple pairs of spring shorts that I had bought for my daughter that she'll never wear because she's already outgrown them.
Yeah, gosh.
It's these little time capsules. It was a really strange and bizarre thing, but we're so grateful that our producer held on and found a way to let us come back.
Right, and let the audience enjoy it. Thank you so much, Rob. We loved your performance. Rob McClure.
Thank you, Joan.
Starring in Mrs. Doubtfire, the new musical comedy at the Sondheim Theater. Go see Rob and the cast. It will cheer you up, make you laugh, and we all need that. I look forward to talking to you again. I'm Joan Hamburg, and you're listening to WABC.